There we go. Did everybody get into the group? Awesome. I'm so excited to have you all here today to hear Cherylyn speak again. And she has such valuable content for us. We can glean and we can apply it in our own homes and with our children. And so, yes, it's going to be another powerful morning or afternoon. And I'm just going to start first by letting you know, I've known Cherylyn now for over 20 years. And so we are super close friends, even though we don't, of course, spend a lot of time with each other. But it began, over 20 years ago when she was living here in my province. And while my husband and I were working in a mission hospital in far western Nepal, Cherylyn was sort of my link to Western society and was, really was a real moral support. And now, it's my my opportunity to do the same with her and her family. And so I have been tutoring her daughter since last year. And so that has been, just a time for me to give back. And I've just been so blessed working with her daughter. And so did you want to say anything, Cherylyn?
Well, I am so thankful for you being my friend over these years, as you were in Nepal and then I was in Africa, and now I'm here talking to you from Greece and all these wonderful people as well. And I want to say thank you to Rosemary, because I have a daughter who's 11 years old. And she's dyslexic, and we've had different people try to work with her. And last year, she was 10 years old and she was not reading yet, and I'm an educator myself. And I had taught hundreds of kids to read, but I have not been able to teach my own daughter. And even with all the extra help we got, we still could not make the leap into being a child who could read. And I'm so thankful, because I put a Facebook post out. They said, can anybody help me? I was just kind of at the end of my rope. And as a homeschooling mom, we've had lots of different people try to work with her, but nothing had helped. And I was just like, So I just put a note out, anybody want to help me with my child who's dyslexic? And Rosemary, out of the blue, wrote me and said, I would love to take her on. And she worked with her extensively all last year, and is continuing to continue to work with her. But I remember about 3 months in, I went off to Africa for, and it was supposed to be 2 weeks, but because of COVID, I got stuck in Africa. So I was gone for over a month, and I came back. And as a mom, you it's hard to see success sometimes, because it happens at such a small little level, incremental levels. But when I came back and I looked at my child, I burst into tears as she's sitting going, I said, Cassie, what are you doing? And she says, I'm reading. And she was sitting there with a boxcar kid book on her lap, and she was reading and enjoying herself. And she says, oh, can you give me a few more minutes, Mom? Because I'm just in the middle of a good part. I walked out of that room and tears just streamed down my face. And I thought, I have a child who can read. And, I have many children, as we talked about yesterday. I have, not only have I taught many others as an educator and working in school systems, and I'm a special needs teacher on top of everything. And I had not been able to make the shift. And Rosemary coming alongside, and some of her skill set and training in dyslexia was really able to take my child from a non-reading child to a reading child. So I'm very thankful, and I'm thankful that you're able to offer your services to other homeschooling moms. And so that's my journey a little bit over the last year, and I'm so excited because we're growing and growing in her reading level. And so thank you. Thank you. And I'm thrilled to be here on this summit. And yesterday we talked a little bit about red, yellow, green, 3 very simple colors, but they represent so much. They represent what's going on in my brain when I see a situation that's around me, or I wake up in the morning. How am I feeling? I can start to examine, okay, I'm in yellow. That means I almost need to put a little bit of a protective barrier around me and my children, because, you know, and if I'm in red, it's like, okay, I just need to stay away. I just need to go off to my room and get myself back to green, because I know that when I'm in red, the whole house is going to be in red, because I can just start snapping at people. And I could take a greenhouse and make it red almost instantly. And so I need to be aware of myself, because if I want a greenhouse, I got to be in green. And then I need to be aware of where everybody else is at. And when you have a large family, you know, you sit around the table and you say, you know, how was your day? What color were you in? And, you know, we did that just a few minutes ago. And one guy goes, you know, I had a green day. And you say, so why was it green? Because when I went to swimming lessons today, normally I have that plastic cap over my head. And today I put that net cap over your head. In Greece, they all have to wear swimming caps in order to go to swimming lessons. And he says, I always come out with a headache, but that new swimming cap worked so well that I didn't come out with a headache. And, you know, these kind of discussions sometimes don't happen as easily, but when they're able to stop and say, oh, what color was my day today? So that was just a few minutes ago in my house. And then I have another one who's got into everything. And yeah, so it's dinner time in Greece, and we just finished dinner time. And now we're excited to talk about behaviors. You know, when that kid 20 minutes ago had gotten into the cream, that 3-year-old, and spread it all over your guest bedspread and their sheets. And it's their brand new cream that they just bought 3 hours ago. And you're just like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And you're thinking, oh, and you've got this kid who's got fingerprints and it's everywhere. And you're just like, and then you pick her up, and my jeans right now, thankfully you can't see them, but they're full of oil stains all over them. And I'm like, I hope this comes out, but I can't deal with it now because I got to go on in a few minutes. And life sometimes just spirals, right? And you have those crazy days, and where you feel like you're just bouncing from one thing to another. And so we talked a little bit about why yesterday, but today we're going to talk about what do I do now? So I'd like us to show a video just so that you know I'm a real human being who ends up on the street humiliated. I have children of all different ages, and I've had children in my home that call me mom as a foster mom, and I have 4 adopted children that come from my heart, not my tummy. And I have 3 from my tummy, and I have children with special needs as well. And so I want you to, if you could show that little video, this was taken about a year ago. A friend happened to be videotape me on the side of the road. Okay, so that is a little taste of my life. And I'm sure each one of us can relate to those times when you're in the supermarket or you're, I think, it looks different, but I think our children have those kind of moments, no matter if they are 12 or 14. It may look a little bit different, but it's still those moments when you feel that that things are out of control. And what is the first thing as a parent who has an out of control child want to do? Is I have an out of control child who's in red. I want to flip to red too. That's the easiest tendency, your brain. I mean, I'm standing on the side of the street. I am a foreigner in this country. I am in the middle of the city here, and there are people everywhere. And here I am, and I have this child on the street screaming her head off. So I am embarrassed. I'm embarrassed about, and I feel like, what do you do as soon as you think, okay, what are people thinking about me? They think I'm a horrible parent. They think I can't look after my kids. I can't control my children. These are all kind of feelings that I'm feeling deep within my heart. I just go, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I gotta get control over this. And as soon as I feel like it's about me, or I feel like, this child is embarrassing me, then my brain state goes into yellow, and then it can go into red, and I can mirror that. But it's not about me. My child right now is lying on the floor, well, the ground, not the floor, in the middle of a street, because something has triggered her. She is feeling overwhelmed. So we have to look at what's going on. But the first thing I need to do is recognize that this is not about me. So how am I going to respond to this child? The first thing I need to do is I need to create a gap. I need to stop. So I want us to put up that poster. This is what I have in my house. These are great posters. I laminate them. Kids can fill the back in. But I'm going to go through this now because I think this is a tool that can help you to stop and say, okay, what do I do in those red moments when life feels out of control? The first thing I need to do is I need to stop. Now, if the child was in an unsafe situation, or I was in an unsafe situation, the first thing you need to do is safety comes first, okay? So stop, make sure everything's safe. A child lying on the street, if she's in the middle of the road, obviously I would have moved her off the road. And as you listen to that video, okay, I want you to think about it. How long did that video feel? Often when we're in situations like that, we feel like it's eternity. But I think if you asked Rosemary, who shared that, it feels like it's forever when you're in the midst of it, when you feel like you have no control. But when you look back over that video, it is 1 minute and 12 seconds. 1 minute and 12 seconds. I took a child who was completely in red and was able to get her back to where she was functioning and working with me. But if I had gone to red too, and I grabbed her up and I went marching off, and it would have taken a lot longer, because my red would have to calm down, and my child would, the mirroring neurons that are happening in our brain would have escalated this child, because she would not feel safe with the red mom. She would not feel like I was able to meet her needs. Remember, a dysregulated mother cannot regulate a dysregulated child. Think about that for a minute. That is so important to think about. If I'm in red, I cannot make somebody else green. And when we think of what red means, we talked about that yesterday. If you didn't hear all about that yesterday, You may want to go back and watch that video. But yesterday we talked about the 3 parts of the brain. And when we're in that brain state and that fight, flight, or freeze, what do we need to do? We need to be able to make that child feel safe. We need to be able to make him feel valued, and we need to be able to get him up to his green brain, to his neocortex. So when I'm looking at this, the first thing I need to do then, if the situation is safe, I stop. Red means stop. So stop talking, don't get involved, don't talk about the problem at that moment. You just need to name it red. I need to be able to identify this child is in red brain. So what does that child need? The child needs me to be a safe person. When you think of yourself, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like there's just everything is being bombarded at you, and then your husband comes along, like yesterday, you know, I lost my keys, I'm racing because I got to get the kids somewhere, I got to do this, this, this. And all of a sudden, you know, he comes in and says, you know, you've got to have a strategy. You've got to be able to do this, you know, for losing your keys, you know, and you're just like, I don't need this right now. I can't process it because my brain is in yellow. It can't, right now I need him to make me feel safe. And he's usually very good at it, but he was in yellow anyways because he needed to get off to work and I needed to get there and I couldn't find what I needed to find. And then that tension just gets there, right? But if I could stop and say, okay, what's going on? I said, we can discuss this when I get back to green. Like after the keys are found, later tonight, we can talk about this, but not right now. Because I'm in red. I'm feeling very unsafe. But there's other times my husband comes along and we use the common language of red, yellow, green in our home. And when he comes along and he sees me stressed because company's coming and he says, you know what, you're going to red, go for a walk, get yourself back to green and then come back again. That makes me feel safe. It makes me feel valued. It makes me feel like he can handle my big emotions at this moment. And he can he can help me have the space to get myself back to green. But if he's talking to me and talking to me and talking to me, right, when I'm feeling stressed and upset, it just escalates the issue. Has anybody ever been in that situation? When we're feeling overwhelmed, we need that calm person to come in and say, it's okay. It's okay. You're going to be okay. And then we need that person to be able to handle it. And that's what our children need. These little children, some of them have been on the world 8 years, 12 years. I mean, I still have issues and I'm, you know, very old compared to that 3-year-old child whose brain is just developing. That limbic system, you know, our brain, our brain stem, they say is often being developed in the first 18 months, our limbic system, the first 36 months. And our neocortex, the first 25 years. So these children need a lot of grace. So when we stop, we take it, we need to name it red because we want to connect with the top part of our brain. And as Dan Siegel says, when you name it, you can start to tame it. And that's, you see that all the time. When there's an accident, you know, and you arrive at the first responders and that person's, you know, very disoriented or very overwhelmed, they'll start to say, you know, tell me, what is the level of pain? And that as that person starts to talk about their pain, the level suddenly goes from 10 to 7 because they're connecting the lower part of their brain with the top part of their brain. And that's when we can start to say, so if we can say, okay, red means stop. We know that. Red means somebody is feeling unsafe. And my job when somebody is in red is to make them feel safe. I need to breathe because I need to get oxygen to my brain. And then the last thing we're going to talk about on this red poster is we need to think about what is our green plan. You do not make a green plan when you're in red, but you practice your green plan so that when the red situation happens, you just know automatically what to do. You know, I've been told and I've seen that, you know, they can, in some of the huge high schools, they can empty a school of teenagers in 4,000 teenagers in less than 4 minutes. Why? Why can they do that? Because they have a plan. Somebody strategized what the plan is. They shared it with the teachers. The teachers shared it with the class. And then they practice. Because what do we know about red brain? Is when your brain goes to red, you can only do rote learning. You're not going to be able to do that critical thinking. So if you practice what to do with your kids while they are in that green brain state, then when the red brain time hits, when they're feeling that dysregulation, they know what they can do to get themselves back to green. So I have children, different situations. We talk about this as what can you do when you're at home and you're feeling like your brain is going to red? So maybe it's go to your room. Maybe they're like, we have a trampoline outside, you know, maybe, and we have a hammock outside. So I have a child who likes to go and sit and rock herself in the hammock. Another child who, when they're feeling dysregulated, they go and they bounce on the trampoline. Another child just goes up to their bed and listens to music. But what do you do when you're at school and you're feeling like this? Well, let's look at a plan for that. And then the other. So because we want to know what to do when we are in that green, we want to do this when we are in green. We want to put a plan together so that when the red moments hit, we know what the thing to do is. I have a friend who has a sensory box, she has a red box. Each of her children have a red box. And those children went to the dollar store and bought all sorts of things that they like, squishy things, chewing bubble gum, and they picked out things that they want to do when they are going to red, to help them calm down and get their brain back to green. We have to remember that this is a brain issue. This is not, you're not focusing on behaviors at this moment. We want to work with what's happening physiologically in the brain to get these children back to their green brain state and get yourself to green so that you can problem solve. Because one of the things we're trying to do is teach children is to teach them the skills they need. Because as Ross Green says, challenging children are challenging because they don't have the skills not to be challenging. That is one of my favorite lines. I say this to myself all the time, is when I'm seeing an incident and I just want to react against it, I have to stop myself and say, challenging children are challenging because they don't have the skills not to be challenging. So my job as a parent or as a teacher and as a homeschooling mom, it is you are a parent and a teacher, is to give them the skills. And that's when we're going to talk a little bit right now about yellow brain. You know, when we have that child who's red, out of control, you know, we can see that, we know they're red, we can say, okay, and sometimes it might take 30 minutes if that brain is really dysregulated to get them back up to green. So sometimes don't expect that 1 minute, depends on the age child and depending on a lot of things. But that yellow brain child, that child who's struggling in that middle part of their brain, or me when I'm struggling in that middle part of the brain, what does that look like when they're tired? I have to stop and go, okay, what do I do now? Okay, I've identified it. They're yellow, they're tired, they're overtired, or they're hungry, or they're bored, they're annoyed, they're frustrated, they got some anxiety about going back to the programs that have been off. Maybe they're going off to camp and they're just yellow and they're agitated. I have to stop and I have to think, you know, what are the unmet needs? And what's going on in that child's brain? What did the child need? Then I have to think, what else is happening? What are the unsolved problems in that child's brain? So, you know, it might be that my child is struggling with people leaving. You know, in my house, that can be an issue because my children just watched their older sister today go off to a school in America. And you have to look at them and, you know, and you start to see them, you know, nattering with each other and there's just that tension in the house. And I have to just think, okay, what's going on for them? They just said goodbye to their older sister. They don't know when they're going to see her again because we live overseas. And it's hard. It's hard. So there's a grieving thing that's happening there. And I can't take it away, but I can talk about it and I can give grace for that. Now, it doesn't mean I accept the negative behavior that's happening, but I can maybe find a way for them to express it in a more healthier way. And then the lacking skills, again, you know, understanding what to do when there's a problem, or what do I do when things aren't going the way I want it to do? How do I solve those conflicts and that are happening in my life, those social skills? How do I navigate some of this? Is looking at how do I teach my child the skills they need. Somebody said, is Stoplight about permissiveness? Oh, just let the child be in green. No, because if you do that, then what's that child going to do? You're going to grow an entitled child. You're going to grow a child who just expect things, hand the child the iPad, let him do whatever he wants to do. He doesn't want to go to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning, let him go. He's happy, he's in green. No, because a child who doesn't have that person that's really building into their life, they start to be entitled and they start to make their environment to be a red environment around them. So we are not talking about permissiveness. We are not saying let your child do whatever they want. We're saying when your child is in green, that's when we teach them. That's when we help them to learn and do a redo, do a do-over, as some people call it, is saying, go back to the scene of the crime and go back and start again. Okay, I'll say to the kid, okay, we need to do this over again. So let's go right back to the spot and we're going to do it over again. Because what are we doing? In the brain science world, we are creating new neural pathways in the child's brain for the behavior we want to see. So we have to go back and we have to practice, but we do not practice when we're in red. We don't practice when we're in yellow. We practice when we are in green. I don't know if your family's like that or it's just my family, but one of the times we were back in America, Canada, we had to do, we traveled like 18,000 kilometers with 5 kids in the back. And we had to, one time we stopped the car and we said, okay, what color is our car right now? And we said, what color do we need it to be? They said, some kids said yellow, some kids said red. What color do we want it to be? And that's what Stoplight really is about. I can't talk for too long today because this time is going to be cut short. And normally I teach Stoplight. I do a 40-hour course. And there's so much you can learn. And we have books that help you to go deeper. But one of the things Stoplight wants to do is to help you to look at how do you grow your child's emotional health. And being in green is only the beginning. Because in that car, I had a 16-year-old, 6'2", and I had a small child in a car seat. And he is the greenest child you've ever met in your entire life. He's always green. But what I need to do is I need to grow him. See, I need to help him to take that social responsibility, have that empathy, have that moral identity that says, okay, what can I do? So, I have to work at teaching him, okay, what's going on here? Your little sister dropped her toy. How is she feeling right now? She's tied up in a car seat. She can't reach it. You, with your big long arms and your big long legs, could easily reach down and pick up the toy and give it to her. So we have to grow some of our children. And, some children are naturally more like that. Some children aren't. But empathy is something that needs to be developed in our kids. And so going through the red, yellow, and green helps us to work through that process. But I just want you to know that it's not the end. It's just the beginning, getting your child in green. That's when you can connect with your child. that I have to be in green, because some parents say, well, I've never met a parent who says, I don't love my child. Okay. There is a relationship that happens, a connection that happens with parent to child. So when we are in yellow, okay, there's a barrier that goes up between me and my child. And that child will not feel my love if I'm a yellow or red mom. Even though I love my child, I do anything for my child, but my brain state, it's not about you, it's about your brain state. If you allow your brain to be in that red and yellow zone, there will be a wall that goes up between you and your child, and there's going to be that disconnect. So I would encourage you to be able to look at yourself, get yourself back to green, and look at your child, get your child back to green, and that's when you can connect. That's when you can problem solve, and that's when you can go forward. So these little posters are super helpful for me. I have them on my wall. It even helps my child to look and say, okay, what do I need? Maybe I'm tired, cold, hungry, thirsty, or I could look and say, what else is happening in my life? My hamster died. My best friend is moving away. Somebody called me a name, something that happens not even in your home, but maybe something happened on the at the program they were at, and they come home and they bring that residue back into your home. And so I want you to be always looking deeper, going deeper. What's going on in my child's brain? So I could keep talking here, but I really want to encourage you to join our online course that's starting this Saturday. We will be doing a lot more deeper, looking at how do you grow emotional health. And I have a poster behind me that we are looking at over the course of 7 weeks. We're looking at emotional literacy, being aware of what color am I. We're looking at behavior and tools of how do you do more self-regulation tools. How can you be calm? How can you connect with your child? And then how do you, when they get to green, be a coach for your child? And so then we have connection and empathy. How do we listen to somebody else's perspective? And then we have decision, moral identity. What's my values? And how do I help my child learn those values? And then we talk about engagement, social responsibility. That's what we want from our children. We want them to have that sense of social responsibility. And then letter F is about frequency, that growth mindset. So I would encourage you if you've enjoyed listening to and understanding a little bit about brain science and how that can make a difference as a parent, then join us for the 7-week online course starting this coming Saturday, October 16th. And you can go on our website, www.thestoplightapproach.org, and then you can register there. And I'm going to turn it, Rosemary, is there any questions or people have for us?
Hi, Cherylyn. Hi, Tanya. How are you? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for this. This is excellent. Have your book. Love your book. Just wanted to come to this session to get some more. Do you have any tips on how to put together a green plan?
I do.
Yeah.
I think because we're all unique, right? So
yeah.
My green plan is not going to be your green plan. I think how do you do that? I think you have to start to analyze yourself. And there's a lot of great ideas. One of the things we talk a lot about is repetitive patterning. So there's some things that really, really help with the getting back to green. Skipping, drumming, listening to music, having a shower, because that repetitive patterning on your brain really helps. I have a child who, when she was little, soon as she would be going into red, she loved showers. They were very calming for her. I think she spent a lot of hours in that shower. That worked for that one child. And I know but I found that often my children is we want to make them quiet and we want to sit them where actually they need to be doing something, like go for a walk, go for a run, you know, play basketball. I had a child in one of my programs that picked up, got angry. Somebody made fun of his pencil box and he just threw it on the ground and it smashed into a million pieces. And one of our staff, trained in this, would just say, let's go throw some basketballs. One thing we have to remember is while we're getting back to green, we are not talking about the problem. Mm-hmm. And even when the child gets to yellow, we are connecting with the child. We are not talking about the problem. This is a big mistake that parents often make is, I can't believe you did this. You cannot hit your baby brother. You know, it's not the time to talk about hitting your baby brother. The time is when they get to green. And that's where we are not permissive, but we go back and we work through it. So I think looking sensory things like hot, cold, drinking, you know, depending on the person, chewing bubble gum really works with some kids because it's that repetitive patterning. Singing, dancing. I know we've thrown on some music, you know, some music videos when I've had a child that's dealing with a lot of red, but, you know, I've done that very much. Again, it's really about the kind of child and the age of development. So I can have a lot more control over that, over a 6 or 7 year old where, and I can involve them in that process. But as a 16-year-old, that may look very different. As a 16-year-old, I have children that love to just go for a walk, take the dog for a walk, you know, or sit in a hammock and put put music on is one of the big things for my older ones as well. So for those kids that really struggle with that self-regulation, I think it's not about us telling them what they need to do, but exploring with them what things work, and let's try some different things, and let's practice it when we're in green. And I think that's what we often forget to do. And we create these plans, and then we think, oh, you know, we're just going to pull them out when it's time. Well, that kid is so far gone at that moment. They could care less about what plan they had. And sometimes it doesn't matter how brilliant your plan is. Sometimes when you have that very, very red child, and we have, again, we have lots of different kinds of children in our home, but I had a child who, our goal at that point was just to sit inside the door of the bedroom. And we put our back to the door. So we're there, we're present, we're not talking, and that child is screaming out of control. And we just wait. We just wait. We're not talking. You know, if we do say anything, it's a calming word. You're okay. I'm just going to sit here. When you're ready, you know, I'm here for you. And just that calming, you know, they might throw things. They might, as long as they're not hurting yourself or anybody at that point, we're just, let them go. You know, I have a child that's, you know, run off into the yard, and you just let it go. And, you know, within probably, you know, 15, 20 minutes, they'll start to de-escalate. And then, you know, all of a sudden it's like, I know they're having a hard time. And all of a sudden I know she really likes milkshakes. Well, I'm going to make everybody a snack with a milkshake. You know, not right at the height of it, but a way to, when I start to see her starting to move out of that red, a way to connect. And I put that on the table, you know, because at this point, you know, punishment is making them pay for what they did. How dare you rip up your brother's book, or how dare you do that? This is not the time for that. We need to get them back to green. And then afterwards you can say, you know, let's go. And then there's that whole repair and restore and redemptive consequences, or what I call skill building consequences. Like if you're going to give them a task to do, how is that teaching them the skill for what they didn't do? So you know, some people say you're grounded because you didn't take out the garbage, or you didn't do this, or you talked back to your mom. And this is things that we go into in the course as well, but it's that time in, not time out. Time in, out is, it builds a disconnect between you and your child, whereas a time in brings you together. And, it works for a 16-year-old and a 3-year-old. It looks different for a 16-year-old and a 3-year-old. So that 16-year-old, it might be, we're playing games tonight. Like I remember, one of my kids, when he was 16, he was being rude. And Mark said, you're not, my husband said, you're not going out with to your friend's house tonight, because if you can't be respectful in the family, you're not going out to other people. And, we weren't planning a games night. We weren't planning anything, but a mistake would be to allow that child to go off into their room and shut the door and put his headphones on and think about how horrible his parents are. No, the goal of keeping my child home was for him to learn the skills and build respect within our family. So, we want you to participate in a family games night. Believe me, that was not on my agenda that night, but we needed to create the opportunity for reconnection. We needed to create the opportunity to skill build. What skill was he missing at that moment? It was connecting with his family and being respectful in the family. And so if he wants to go out tomorrow night to his friend's house, then he needs to, or next week, then he needs to show us that he can be a healthy, productive member of our family. Does that make sense? So that's the difference between time out and time in. Now for my 3-year-old today, I sat her on the bed beside me because she's just an hour ago just smeared everything. I was like, this is not what we're going to do. You're going to sit with me right now because we need to think about this. But it's not, you go sit in that room, you get out of here, because that's saying, my emotions and what I did is too much for my mom. And there's a sense of disconnection, a sense of, it's about bringing the child close to you and then helping them learn. No, that's not what we do. We're going to have to clean up this very, very big mess that you made. And look at this. Look at how this bed is. Now, where is the lady going to sleep tonight? And what are we going to do? So I'm trying to build that empathy in her. This is not okay to smear lotion all over her bed. So it's investment parenting, it's skill building, it's focusing on the relationship. The relationship is fundamental. And when you send a child off, that's a disconnect. But when you're able to come alongside them and say, we're going to sit here for a minute because this is not okay. And that child was very green as she did it. Now, she's 3.5 and she's exploring. She's, I think she, what was the meaning behind it? I think she just loves cream personally, and it felt really good to her. I don't think she was out to get me. Sometimes as a mother, and I know especially when I was a young mom, I felt like this was against me. How dare you do this? How dare you do this to our company? How dare you do this? I felt like it was, the child is out to get me. Believe me, that child had no intentions of being out to get me or my company. She doesn't even have the capacity to think of all the implications, where I'm thinking, I've got dirty sheets right now that I have to deal with when this Zoom call ends. I have to figure out, we don't have any extra sheets to put on the bed and it is already 10 o'clock at night. So what am I going to do? So, these are the feelings that is making my brain state drop. And then I have to stop and breathe. Okay. Because I don't want to go to red. And I need to say, okay, what's happening here? And the timing was like, this is like 10 minutes before I'm coming on the Zoom call, it's like the timing was really bad, so I'm already, trying to get on the Zoom link and I'm trying to do this. And I got Rosemary calling and saying, are you not connected yet? And I'm like, no, not yet. So, as a mom, your brain's sometimes everywhere. And it's how do I keep the relationship? And how do I train her in the midst of everything? So I don't know if that gives you any little ideas, but that's just a thought, some thoughts that are in my head right now. I'm living in the middle of this chaos. Anybody else have questions or thoughts or?
I'm amazed that you are able to just stay calm. Like, I don't know how you could focus on anything with all that going on. And I know you have a conference tomorrow that starts tomorrow, right? That people
Yeah, I got
come
people
from all
coming in
other
tomorrow.
countries, and you're
Yeah.
putting it on?
Yeah, I have 16 people coming in from all sorts of different countries around the world to be and work together and look at how do we help and support people who are using Stoplight in schools, and a lot of people. This is a huge paradigm shift for people in some countries. Like, I worked in Africa where they have this stick at the front of the classroom, and if you spell the word cat wrong, and another country where they use a lot of shaming. And then there's other countries where it's very permissive in their parenting, and they just kind of let kids do whatever they want. And how do we get back to understanding the brain, and how do we use that, and how do we go forward? But also, how do we support and work with people through the process of this, and how do we do that strategically? And we have many books. We have a teen book, The Mysterious Mind. This was written by, no teenager wants to listen to a 50-year-old write about them. So one of my interns at one point, who's now actually my daughter-in-law, but this was a couple of years ago, she was the writer voice on this. She was here for a summer before she was connected with my son, actually. She really was able to help us take all these concepts and write it in a way that would really help teenagers. So this was written by teens for teens. And it's something that helps them to understand what's going on in their brain scientifically. And it's something that you could do with your teenager as well. And so this is My Mysterious Mind. We have teachers' books. We have, I have a parenting book that's, I think, online. One that is not faith-based, and we have one that Focus on the Family is going to be publishing in the spring. So that's going to be coming out. We have How to Develop a Thriving Schools. But this is my favorite of all, is this little booklet. It's got all the major nuggets of how to grow emotional health in your children, or whether you're a teacher or a parent. And this is what the course is built on. And we go into a lot of depth. We look at it from a scientific perspective, but a practical with lots of examples. And I think you'd really enjoy the course. But you also can just get the booklet. So we have lots of things happening in the world of Stoplight, and it's growing and it's snowballing because of the simple language. It's something that you can communicate with your family. Your 3-year-old can talk about red, yellow, green, as well as, as your husband to wife. And it creates that community where we can talk with one another about emotions, about how we are feeling, and we can create that environment where people feel safe, they feel respected, and they can take responsibility for how do we grow and engage in a green home. Is that helpful?
Yes, that's very helpful, Cherylyn, and appreciate the question as well. Yeah, it's something we all see that we can definitely take already and start using some of those things to help us ourselves, first of all, be aware of where we're at in our relationship, in our connection with our kids and with our husband, with neighbors, with everybody around us, and just helping. It's really helpful, to see, yes, that child was not bad, but to look behind, and see what's going on in the brain. And that's really useful. It's really helpful for us. Great reminders. So,
and you can get these posters on our website.
Okay.
So you can order these posters on our website, but there's also some free videos that you can watch and things that you can do as well.
Great. That'd be great for teachers.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you said, Rosemary, that just struck me right now is that it's that as soon as you say that child is bad, then you move into a mental state of wanting to control that child and make him good. Because if it's bad, it needs to be made good. Whereas if you think of it through brain science, you say, this child is unsafe and I need to help that child be safe. And then I can teach and train the child. Some of you coming from a faith-based perspective, you know, it talks about train up a child. And it looks at how do you help that child to grow with the skills. You don't train a child when he's in red. His brain state cannot deal with and learn in that red brain state. Is you want to get them to that green brain state. So, you know, we know that he needs to be taught skills, and we can only do that. As we talked yesterday, it takes 12 to 15 times to teach a child when he's in green. That same child, that same skill, whether it be respect, whether it be learning to tie their shoes, whatever, it will take 350 to 400 times that same child, the same skill, if he's working in his red brain state. So as a parent, you definitely don't want to teach it. I hear these moms say, I told that child 100 times not to do that. And you're thinking to yourself, but you probably haven't got to 350 to 400 times yet. That's what I think. I don't tell the red brain mother that, but that's kind of what's going on in my mind when I hear them say that. I'm like, maybe you need to look at it differently. So I hope this was helpful.
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much, Cherylyn. I just want to say a little bit about this evening. I believe Shari is going to be diving into the ways that the body communicates with the mind and the impact it has on focus, engagement, learning, and also she'll be looking at some brain hacks that you can use to get your child's brain and body working together optimally. So that's going to be a really powerful session. Did you want to say anything, Shari?
Well, I was just going to say, Leah is actually on the list. We're figuring that one out because it seems like it's a hard time for people at 8 o'clock. And so she was, yeah, we're trying to navigate that one. So yeah, Leah's on the schedule, but I'm happy to talk at 8 o'clock too. So we're trying to pivot based on where everybody is at. Last night, it seemed like it was really hard for people to be there. So we're just trying, if you guys have any feedback about all of that, that would be helpful for us to know too.
Well, 8 o'clock at night is about, I think, 3, 4 in the morning for me.
Yes, you won't be there. We don't expect
I won't be there.
The other thing is I was going to do a think tank moment, but Elizabeth and Ben, are you there? Can you drop something in the chat if you are in the Zoom call? If you're not in the Zoom call, can you get into the Zoom call real quick? Because we could do that, but it seems like we already kind of did a think tank moment with Tanya or Tanya? Tanya.
Sorry,
Okay.
so you want Elizabeth to come up?
Is she available?
She is, yes.
Oh, great.
Sorry, I have to drop. Sorry. Thank
Okay,
you.
Tanya, it was so great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks, Cherylyn.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Now,
All
I'm
right.
just having trouble with exit full screen.
Was your question, are you Elizabeth and Ben?
I'm
Is that the
Elizabeth
email?
Merck. I don't know which Elizabeth you're looking for.
Okay, there was somebody who has a Facebook name, Elizabeth and Ben. And
No, that's not me.
okay. I noticed in their Facebook message that they had a question that I was going to address, but it doesn't look like she's here. Did you have a question that you'd like us to address?
No, I just came on because you asked Elizabeth to come on. Otherwise, I still need to have a shower and wash my hair. So I've got the video off.
Okay, that's fine. No, I was just trying to figure out if she was in, so.
Hey, Elizabeth, while we've got you there, quick question. What's landing for you the most? Like, what are you finding the most value from what's shared today?
Are you asking me this?
Yeah, what are you finding the most value in today? What's the most helpful for you?
I think just the way a person views the child, like when the child's having their moment, it's viewing them through different eyes.
So good. So good. Yeah. I think I'm going to jump in there. I hope you guys don't mind.
No.
Hey, Nura, did you want to come in too and just unmute and share something that's standing up for you? I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Come join us. Let's hear what's landing for you guys. Let's hear.
I'm Nur from Uganda.
Oh,
Hi.
welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you.
How is the information landing for you? What are you finding most supportive today?
How putting somebody in green to be like it differs from one person to another, because not everyone goes back to green into the same way. If mine is music, the other one maybe is jumping, doing exercises. I think that was really good.
So good. Which one are you?
And I would like to say on to Nuru is even myself, some days when that's why I need to have many different things, because some days it might be I like to take a shower. Some days it might be I want to take a walk, or, there's different things, even for myself, to get back to green, might be to call and pray with a friend or something. So I think there's it's kind of really important to be aware of maybe a few things that you really like to do yourself. Because I think sometimes when you say one thing, but when you're in that red brain, that might not be the right thing at that particular time. So, or it might be raining outside, or there might be guests over and I can't really do that, so, but if I have a couple ways that I can get myself back to green, I think it's really important to be aware of those things, so that when I am in green, red, that I can manage myself much more in a healthier way. But yeah, thank you, Nura.
You're welcome, Cherylyn.
Can I just add and build upon that? I think that was something that I really appreciated hearing too, is that when a child is in red, rather than having them sitting and thinking about what's going on, actually have them be active and do something rhythmic. Like that was a new thing for me. So I appreciated that, Cherylyn. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's a tendency, is we want that kid to apologize within a minute. We want them to think about it, go to your room and think about what you did. Well, no child is sitting in their room thinking about what they did. They're trying to think about how they can get back at their brother for telling on them, or what they can do differently, or they're off their mind to something. One of my children back in the, because that's how I was taught as a teacher, so I remember once hitting my child down in a church, and he had been doing something, and he was about 4 years old, and I sat him down and I said, you think about what you did. One of the older ladies walked by and said, Josiah, what are you thinking about? He looked up and says, trucks. He wasn't at all thinking about how he should be nice the next time. Like, children aren't doing that. And it's not really teaching them the skills at that particular moment, but his mind had gone on to trucks, So I think is teaching those skills and being aware of that, I think is really important. And not doing that while a child's in red is and that's what we, even when they're in yellow, it's how do I connect them before I direct them into or teach them the new skills. It's get them calm, get them out of the red and then into the yellow. But when they're in the yellow, I need to really make them feel heard. I need to make them feel, just do something fun, drink some, like make a milkshake together, or go for a walk together, do something together. And then later, after they feel connected with you, then you could start to talk about the issue that you've had. But I think we often skip those steps and jump right to, this is what's going on. And then everything just kind of falls apart easily.
Could I also add how awesome and powerful that video was that 1 minute and 12 seconds with the little girl. And you could just see that she had an attachment, because it was like glue that just brought her to you when you said, "Do you need a hug?" Like she actually pulled herself up on her own and went to you. Like that was just a beautiful moment.
So,
It really
I
was.
really like what you said, Elizabeth. It's that relationship. That's the foundation of everything you do. It's not about controlling behavior. The first start is that connection, that relationship. That is the fundamental, that's your foundation of your home, needs to be relationship. And then you build your pillars of being safe, be respectful, be responsible. And then it's in the context of that culture that when a mess up happens, they feel like they can come to you with it. They feel like you are going to help them and you are a safe person, not somebody who they fear. When I was, starting teaching, it was always like, oh, you want that child to have a little bit of fear for you, because then they're going to respect you. And I know different cultures, neuro can probably speak into that in a whole new way, but it's how do people respect? They think that fear equals respect, and we want children to fear us, and so they respect it. But that's actually not. That's counterproductive, and it just brings a barrier between you and your child.
Oh, that's so
Any
good.
other thoughts?
Oops, sorry, go ahead.
Any other thoughts? Questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. So how would you suggest is or what are you hearing as feedback or the best ways to bring up this conversation about the stoplight approach? Like if we're at the dinner table, and let's say we have children under like 10 and under or whatever, like 12 and under, what are some really great ways that children are finding are responsive to this new approach?
Well, I think you need to teach it to the children first. And there's many different ways we have that you can do that. You can talk about how the brain works, show them a picture of the brain depending on their age. And you can say, like even the younger ones, you learn to associate the color with the emotion. And then you can start talking about where are you at? And I know some families have a red, yellow, green. I think for a while we did around here. Then some of my kids got a little bit big for that. And, you can put your little clothes peg on it, but it's just a way to communicate, but then it just becomes part of who you are as a family. It just becomes part of the common language. It doesn't have to, because Stoplight is not a program. It is just, how do you view the brain? And the word stoplight basically means brain science. Am I looking at life through brain science? When I look at my brother who's hitting me, how am I responding to that? Well, what color was your brother in? What did you do? Did you help your brother get to red? And you can say, when you did that to your brother, you made him go, and you use that language even as you talk, even just as casual conversations. And you can get rid of all those little words and go down to, what kind of family do we want to be? We want to be a green family. We want a green environment. We are a loving, caring, sharing family. We're a family of grace that protects each other in our weaknesses. We celebrate each other's strengths, and we have an attitude of service. That's our family mission statement. But this is who we are. We want to be a family where people feel safe and we feel connected and respected. So how are we going to do that? I've had kids pushing each other in the car, and I brought them home, fed them snack, and this is when they were in a school, and I took them back, and we practiced getting in and out of the van. And I've done that in my driveway before. It's okay. We're not going to do this every time we get in the car fighting. When you have many kids climbing into a vehicle, I'm sitting here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. No, you touched me, you pulled this, you did this, yeah. Anyways, and it's like, no, we're not doing that. Let's all go back inside. We're going to sit. We're going to talk about this. Everybody, first of all, let's sit. Let's have snack. Everybody, get everybody back to green. And now we're going out. We're going to take our backpacks. We're going to take whatever we need. We're going to practice getting in and out of the vehicle, because we need to practice it so that next time we do this, we're not going to be, we'll just know what we need to do. And, the process, people say, oh, ground the kids, punish the kids. No, they lost their playtime because they had to practice climbing in and out of the van. So that was just a natural consequence. But what was I doing? I was skill building so that when I arrived or when we are going in and out, we're not dealing with the fight. So how are we going to work together? So that is my challenge to you, is just to look at yourselves and take that for homework and say, how can I teach my children what's happening in their brain? And so that when they even look at mom, when she's in yellow, and how do we make a green plan? So that when we do feel, so I want to challenge each of you to make a green plan this coming week with your kids. Talk to them about their brain and say, when you go to red, what are things that you can do to get back to green? And how can we help? It's not about, oh, he's in red or he's in, it's like, okay, this person's unsafe. How do I help that child? Or how do I help my sister or my brother? How do I not make my brother go to red? But how do I help him be in green? There's a big difference. And when we're talking that language, and then you could say, okay, what can I do for myself when I'm going to red? How do I make that sensory box, as some families have done? Or how do I write a list of what helps me to calm myself? And your kids are going to come up with things that maybe you haven't even thought about, like sitting with the dog and, or sucking one of my kids likes to take one of those, we freeze our juice boxes in our house because we do. And we cut off the top and they go outside and they eat it like a popsicle. And that cold, that sucking, that tends to be a calming thing for one of my children. They all like it, but I've noticed that when one of my children is agitated, they enjoy that even more. So they'll come up with things that you don't even think about. So come up with a green plan and share it with the kids and people around you. And take our course that's starting this coming on the 16th. This October 16th is our, if you want to know more ideas and talk about it and have somebody that will walk you through this as it is a journey. It's been a journey for me to go from very traditional approach, don't talk about it, go sit in your room, do this. From going from that kind of punishment environment, how dare you do this? You're grounded, you're doing this. That's kind of our behavior management, that traditional approach that a lot of us have grown up with. And to make the switch, it takes some time. It's a journey. And to have people that can walk alongside beside you is often very helpful. And a lot of you, it's just really good to talk through different things and talk through what's happening in your house. Is that helpful?
Okay. Yes, thank you so much. So I just want to end our session today by just focusing on what is going on tomorrow morning. Well, it's morning here on the west coast of Canada, but it's not morning for anybody else, I don't think, unless you're on the other side of the earth. But so tomorrow Shari's going to be talking and introduce. So today we had Cherylyn shared based on the science of the brain, and tomorrow morning Shari's going to be telling us about a program that's based on research. Did you have anything to say about that, Shari? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Are you talking about Confident Kids Academy, or are you talking about the brain science of because I have two topics tomorrow.
Okay, well, one or the other, whichever one you're doing tomorrow.
Okay, so at 1 o'clock, we're going to talk about Confident Kids Reading Academy and just talk about the kind of what we offer and how it's all based on brain science too, and how kids learn, and setting them up for success using multisensory methods. So a lot of it piggybacks actually on what Cherylyn is talking about in terms of keeping them in the green, because you're keeping their bodies moving, you're doing things, you're changing it up every 5 to 10 minutes maximum on an activity. So you're moving them through things so consistently, so that they're not getting overwhelmed or getting bored, and just constantly and meeting them where they're at, and figuring out exactly where they're at so that you can teach to that. But we'll talk about that tomorrow, and then we'll also tomorrow night we'll be talking about the brain-body connection, and that's actually amazing how what you're talking about today, Cherylyn, fits right into that. It made me have a gazillion questions about how all of that works together, because I think that emotions set off sensory dysregulation, and I never even thought about that before from that angle, and so it makes it brings about a whole new way of thinking about it. But I'll be talking about like how to set them up physically, for success, so that when they are learning, they're in the green, because their bodies and their minds are connected together and working well together.
And I'm really excited to listen to Shari again talk on these topics, because